Okay, here we go.
Got it.
To show, oh, okay, it says it now. All right. Okay. My introduction is just talking about the topics. Thank you, Dr. Mary. You're always right on for me. The topic today is localizing priority issue areas. What works and why? And one of the reasons we thought this might be something that's useful, we know that volunteers we're always trying to keep them engaged and keep their involvement fresh with us. But sometimes people are thinking, isn't there another way to encourage participation, particularly when the priority issue areas, and I know we talk about fraud and caregiving and financial management, but there are lots of ways to expand those areas in our particular communities. And I know some of you have done just major and interesting things to help people. So Dr. Mary, I'd like to get started with the first question if we can for today.
Okay, and welcome everyone who's here. And if you haven't already, which most of you have, either place your state in the chat so we can add it to your name, or if you know how to add it to your name, please do so so we know who is in the room. That always helps, and it always gives everyone an idea of who they can refer back to if they have a question about the state activity that you're doing. So the first question, and I've placed a couple of them in the chat, is how do you keep volunteer participation fresh while they work in the priority areas that have not been significantly changed in the recent years? So keeping things fresh, but working on the same focus. And how do you keep volunteer participation fresh while they work in priority areas that have, oh, did I repeat it twice or?
Yes.
Yes, okay. So I know some of our priorities have not changed, and for good reason, because there's still hot topics, areas that we need to focus on. How do you keep volunteers engaged in your states and in your regions? Anyone want to share their ideas on that? I'll let it marinate for a few minutes. Kim, what's going on in California?
Well, I volunteer with Friendly Voice, which is across the US.
Mhm.
And there's two things that we do. The first one is we have a newsletter that goes out to all of our agents, and we have about 60 plus right now. And it just lets them know different things that are going on, accomplishments, things that are new, tips for them. It's usually about 4 pages or less. And then the other thing, 3 to 4 times a year, we get together with them. And we used to play some games, but now for the past, I think it's been about a year, Felicia. I think if she can correct me, I think it's been about a year now. We break them into breakout groups, and we have different questions about things that they're struggling with, about clients, or what do they say, or when someone's sad, what do you do? And they get together in groups because they don't normally meet. They don't even know each other. And this is the first time they actually seen each other's faces and got to know their names. They know clients, but agents don't know other agents. And so we found that to be very helpful because they like talking with each other. So those are the two ways that we try to keep them engaged.
And those are great ways to do it. Newsletters are a lot of work, but they are very, very informative. So I commend your group for doing a newsletter because, that's something that anybody can refer to at any time convenient to them. And sometimes I just like going back and reading previous newsletters because it might be something that I missed that is more relevant now because I understand where it fits in the AARP enterprise. So thank you for letting us know what you do with the Friendly Voices, Kim. Anyone
Sure.
else? And again, the question for those who joined us is, how do you keep volunteer participation fresh while they work in priority areas that have not significantly changed in recent years?
Um, I'm trying to find the button to push, but I'll just talk.
Oh, no, we
Uh,
see you, Gloria. Go ahead.
Well, in our advocacy area here in Florida, we have been working to push back on the Florida Power and Electric. They were asking for the highest rates in the history of the United States
Oh, my goodness.
for Florida citizens, and they came to various counties and had public service commission hearings. So we went to them. Many of us spoke at them. We in one city we even got the commissioners to have a proclamation against it and how much it's going to hurt everyone in that particular town. And in addition, our advocacy leaders, we signed petitions. So they delivered these in box forms to the Public Service Commission just last week. And I just read today that they have settled. So it's not going to be as high as they had said, but we don't know what it is yet. And I'm sure it's going to be more than we're happy about. But we saw all of our advocates and others came out and attended these events, and I hope that it had an effect, and it really energized the volunteers to be a part of that.
Well, great. Thank you for sharing that. And, those are the type of issues that regionally they may not change. Energy, that's an issue that really does not change, and especially when the rates keep being elevated. So that's a great example that you shared, Gloria. Thank you so much. Anyone else? And um, let me add another aspect to that question. Let me copy it and put it in the chat. And Aaron said that Kim is our newsletter guru and always includes interesting and relevant topics and tips for the volunteers. She is a friendly voice rock star. So let's give Kim some accolades for that, because we don't get enough of that. And that's, like I said, I know that newsletters are hard work, but they're so impactful if they're done well. So thank you, Kim, for the work that you do. And thank you, Aaron, for elevating the work that Kim does.
You're welcome.
Well, Kim, I actually have a couple of questions related to what you said, trying to just explain to people how easy it possibly is to maybe do what you're talking about. When you're producing or when you're issuing a newsletter, who does it? How does that get done?
I do the paperwork, but some of the other people on the admin staff will tell me different topics.
Okay.
So if it's the holidays, maybe we're talking about that. One time we had a client that everyone had probably talked to, and she passed away. So we put a little picture of her and just talked about her briefly.
Mhm.
We'll talk about things for the holidays. We don't do so much like safety that much because we don't go off on those kind of topics. It's more
Mhm.
about focusing on talking with the people, and they always want to know that guy just won't be quiet. I got to hang up with him. What do I say? Or what if someone is very emotional? And when do you
Mhm.
call 988 versus 911? Just things that they might see. They don't see them every day. And we always include lots of pictures. We have
Mhm.
all of us did the Bitmoji about 3 years ago with the two-dimensional faces. So we all have little pictures up there, and we'll put our names up there. We'll tell things about ourselves sometimes. We've told
Mhm.
about our favorite people or animals or whatever. And so we just try to make it light and easy, nothing too difficult. And we like
Okay.
to use nice big font so people can read. And that's what we do, just making it fun and
All
colorful.
right. Well, the second thing you mentioned were using breakout rooms. And I'm
Mhm.
assuming that that's in Zoom.
Yes.
Okay. How did you learn to do breakout rooms? Where can
Oh,
people go for that?
you can actually just go to Zoom, or you can just Google using breakout rooms in Zoom, and they have about 8 different little chapters for free that you can download, and they have like a little movie with it, but they're
Okay.
not that hard. Just you kind of get the little bumps, and you're like, well, how do I do this? And I can't do this. But once you do it, you kind of practice with your buddies, and then you do it with a group. But it really worked. We were doing it, I was doing it personally with friends back during the pandemic. And we'd have gatherings. We tried to make things fun. I said, I don't know how to do this. So we all just kind of did it. And then that's how we learned. But the our group was just so excited. We thought, oh, this would be kind of fun to do because we're used to doing them, but they were just ecstatic because once again, they don't talk with each other like we do. And so for them to talk to people like, oh, what city are you in? I'm in Maryland, you're in Virginia, and then it's just start talking. And so we always make it, we give them a question, but we give them a question with extra time because we know they're going to talk and they like talking. So
All right.
Mhm.
Thank you. I just think that additional detail helps people understand a bit more about how they can weave that into their operations. Thank you. Dr. Mary, I think you can go back on with your question.
Sure, and I
I
want to just,
interrupted.
oh, no, that always enhances the conversation to just dig a little bit deeper into some of the things that are actually happening. And um, I want to thank you for doing that, Deborah. And Erin has kindly put an example of the friendly voice in the chat so that you can download that and read it later, because certainly you want to be engaged in this impactful meeting that we're having right now. But thank you, Erin, for adding that newsletter. And that kind of goes back to the question that you asked, Deborah, goes to the next sub question that I have about the depth and the breadth um, of keeping volunteers engaged. Is either one more important? Um, and it sounds like what Kim has given us an example of is kind of going a little deeper into the engagement aspect, because the topic is the topic, but she's found different ways to engage the friendly voice participants and the friendly voice volunteers so that they can feel more connected, perhaps get a little bit more from the experience by doing those breakouts and the newsletter. So, are there any other examples that anyone else does that either expands on the depth or the breadth of the volunteer engagement on these topics that haven't changed? And for those of you, because I did notice a few more people join the room, the initial question that we asked was, what has been the most successful priority issue areas for volunteer participation? And in those areas, how do you keep volunteer participation fresh when the priority areas may not change from year to year? And Kim gave a wonderful example. Gloria gave a wonderful example of what they did in Florida. Kim in California. Kim gave the example of the newsletter and the breakout rooms. And I'm wondering, is there other depth or breadth type of activities that you do to keep your volunteers engaged in topics, priority areas that may not change from year to year too much? Anyone want to volunteer what they're doing? Put it in the chat. Add another voice to the conversation.
I have a question.
Yes, Kathy.
Hello, thanks for
Hello.
that recap of what's happened. When you say depth and breadth, I don't know, do you have example what that might mean? So a depth, the examples that we've heard, like the breakout example to me feels a little bit like depth, like we're having people go deeper, right? So small group and go deeper. Is that when you say depth, is that what you're thinking versus newsletter maybe is breadth?
I think the newsletter could qualify for both. Um, but yes, yes for the depth. For the breadth, I would guess, and this is just Mary's opinion, but if there is a topic, say Social Security, how do you expand that? How do you broaden that so that volunteers remain interested in talking about the topic? And I think many of the new campaigns that we're seeing is an example. And certainly the 90th celebration is a wonderful example of broadening the exposure and the engagement. But, that's an extreme. So does that help a little bit, Kathy?
Yeah, thank you. And I appreciate that Social Security example and also the utilities example because, as was said, it's never ending. Like you you fight the battle and then it comes back again next year. How do you keep it fresh for folks? So thanks very much.
We'll allow for a little bit of space while people are marinating, because I know things are happening that um, are helpful for us to know about that are going on in various regions. And we'll allow some time and space for that to come into the room. Let me see who's here. We have two screens, so I have to kind of go between screens. I see some new names, but I see some familiar names too. So many of you have been here and understand that everybody's voice and everybody's contribution is very welcome. So let's hear what's going on in your states or in your regions. Okay.
I think we move to the next questions.
Yeah. Well, I have a couple more then,
Mhm.
and we can always come back.
Right.
Here are two more. How does one manage logistics and supplies to minimize staff impacts while maximizing volunteer engagement and ownership? How does that relate to the previous topic? Tangentially, a little bit it relates, but we now know that we're trying to allow volunteers to step up and lead and allow staff members to let go. And I know that there's some wonderful examples with all of the activities that are going on coast to coast in the enterprise that volunteers are uh, managing a lot of logistics for all these successful events. So any examples of that, we'd love to hear. And how do you provide training for volunteers to support your do-it-yourself presentation delivery, which sometimes relates to the presentations that are being done?
Okay. I think we saw Gwen. Did you want to say something? Yes. No. Okay.
I just ran in the door from an appointment. I
Okay.
ran way too late, so my apologies. I'm
Oh,
gonna
no,
sit down
that's
and
okay.
read.
You're right on time.
Mary, may I give a historical reference for this question?
You can.
I remember in the before times, before pandemic, we'll call it, when a state office that I knew had basically a suitcase, and it was the volunteer local event suitcase, right? And so they would pack that suitcase full of whatever was needed for the tabling event and literally drop it by a volunteer's house or something, right? So it was all in one. It was the idea of that, here's everything you need, but it literally was a little portable suitcase. So I wonder if anybody's still doing that. The other side of the coin is we, ARP, have become more focused on the less is more. So if you're going to have a table, do you have a bazillion different handouts, or are you kind of down to one with a QR code? And like, how is that working for enabling as many volunteers to be out, say at an outreach event like a table, or to Mary's point, if you're a DIY presenter, you have the same situation, right? I'm presenting on this topic. Do I give out 6 handouts, in which case I need to have all those, or am I somehow able to do that in an easier way? Thanks.
I see Adriana has her hand up. And Adriana, what state are you from?
California,
Well, thank you. Go ahead.
California. Okay, so I appreciate Kathy's comments, but this is an ongoing issue. that I'm doing a lot better and letting, and working with the volunteers, and letting go, and they are awesome, and it's working out. The only thing I still feel guilty about is having them take all those boxes and I'll just give you a very timely example. This Saturday we had a big event. It was an outdoors concert, and we were expecting hundreds of people, and it was going to be big. And my volunteers were just, hey, we got it. You don't have to come. But it was that thing of, I know there were going to be a lot of boxes. We did the Social Security DIY, the Plinko game, and that comes in I mean, it's just still a big Plinko thing. And I just, couldn't. They would have been fine if it weren't just for that part. So if anyone else has ideas, we tried courier services, we've tried it all. So I think yes, and for the DIY presentations, it's more manageable because they're smaller venues, but when it comes to bigger events, there's just not a sweet spot yet. At least I haven't figured it out, and I still feel guilty. That's the only part that still has me you know micromanaging, because these things are big, and some of our volunteers are older, and yeah, so that's my experience lately.
Well, certainly I thank you for your compassion because yes, big boxes and small people, that can be a challenge. We don't want anybody to get hurt. And I commend you for um, admitting that you have a little bit of a problem letting go of some things. So that's okay. That's okay. We're here to help, but your compassion is what comes to the forefront. So I thank you for sharing that.
And then in answer to Adriana's question, I'm sure someone has dealt with a larger event. How did you work on it from either a volunteer or staff perspective? How did you get the materials there? How do you feel about that? Come on, you can talk, it's fine. Or you can put it in the chat, if you, but I know she would love to hear, and we would love to hear what you have to say.
And Deborah, while we're waiting for someone to offer some additional suggestions, this is one of those opportunities where the ladder of engagement comes in, where those big L, little l, easy entry roles come in. So it may be a whole different team that, does the behind the scenes and the setup, that brings the materials and information to an event. And that might be one way to divide and conquer all the different responsibilities. Um, that's that's why I always like to focus on every role is important. And even if somebody is not able to come and stay at an event, they may, just want to help out in another way and doing some setup or delivering some boxes somewhere because they have a vehicle and they have maybe a mate and an extra set of hands. They can be kind of that uh, team that does that initial delivery of the goods. Um, and then, of course, the same thing on the back end is there may be somebody who doesn't really want to be engaged with the interaction at the table or at the event, but they love to do the wrap up and the tie up and kind of the cleanup aspect of it and washing the tablecloths, as someone pointed out to me at an event. So there's those kind of examples. Steve, I see you have your hand up.
Yeah, I'm just going to say that the way that I handled some of these things is I'm the team leader of East Hawaii Community Services on the Big Island. And we just had our big ice cream social for Social Security. We had our representative there speaking. I delegate I give responsibilities. I had one person that had responsibility making sure the ice cream got there. Had one person in charge checking, one person in charge of the table. We had 6 partner groups, and one person was in charge of making sure that the partner groups found out where they were supposed to be putting where their table was located. So I tend to delegate uh, the chores, the responsibility throughout our team members, and we have to set up the auditorium. This time we had to set up tables because we had ice cream sundaes. And so we had about 50, well, we had 250 people in our little town of Hilo attend that. And our events generally are anywhere from 170 to 200 people attend most of our major events in a year. And we put on about 6 or 7. But that's how I get to it. And I just cover around the edges. I pick up supplies. We have a locker, and I get the supplies there and everything, and coordinate things with my Hawaii staff, who's going to be there. Our community services director here in Hawaii. We just happen to have a very excellent person who how she gets all of her work done on all the islands. I have absolutely no idea. That's Jackie Boland, and but she's fabulous, and she's always there for us.
Well,
But that's what I do.
thank you. Yes, delegation helps, and especially if you know your volunteers' likes and dislikes or abilities, and um, it makes it easy to have the efforts done and not duplicated. Kathy asked, can you say more about the locker? Um,
No, we have a storage locker in Hilo where we keep all of our supplies. We rent that, or AARP rents it for us, where we keep all of our supplies, all of our banners, all the things that we need for all of our pamphlets that we need for any kind of presentation. And other people can. Some of the people do Walk with the Doc, which is a organization that walks around the park and gives a lecture on health. And we sponsor that to some degree. We have one Sunday a month that we are responsible for, and I have one person who gets all the supplies for that. And so we have different tabling events and that, then I ask somebody to take over the responsibility of doing the legwork to put the project together.
Thank you. So who maintains the locker and restocks it as needed? Is it one volunteer the role? Or
I do that.
Okay.
I as team leader, I make sure that it's stocked, and because I know what we have to have, and I can communicate. I don't want 16,000 people communicating with a state office. Our state office has to cover all 5 islands, so and they're located on Honolulu. So it's a logistics problem so I take care of making sure that all that's covered.
Very good. And I know some states have information centers or information offices of, a few states. And so some of the information storage that Steve referred to is utilized in those information centers as well. Um, Excellent teamwork. Yes. Steve did share a very good example of how teamwork works. So thank you, Gwen, for confirming that. Kathy?
Steve, I'm so glad you spoke. And I do have another question, which is the event that you mentioned with the 200 people. And Adriana's specific question about all the boxes, especially something like the Plinko game that's heavy. How do you solve that? Is that you again? Are you other duties assigned, Steve?
I do. I keep I keep all of our electronic equipment in my house, and I keep all that games because that's a pretty fragile. The Plinko game, the Social Security Plinko game's pretty fragile, and so I keep that at my house and bring it whenever we use it.
And is there a way, have you seen for volunteers around the island where something is heavy, like what just from a practical point of view, who's lifting that in and out of vehicles or getting it to the table, that sort of thing?
Well, whenever we don't, and I have run into that problem, and without realizing it, we had a tabling event out in Puna, because we're trying to bring in some, expand our region a little bit. Instead of just being Hilo, we actually take care of everything from Hanaka'a to down at the tip of the island. And so we're trying to expand it, and we had a table, and I did find it. Oh, I had two people that had to close it up because it's 60 miles from where I live. It's where we do that, and it's about 30 miles from Hilo, and they couldn't handle it. They had to call their husband to bring a truck down to put it in it. But now one of our other volunteers decided it. Well, I'll just take on the responsibility of going down and getting that stuff. So when we have things like that, then we find somebody to help out with that. It was one of those little issues that I never even thought about because I can handle all that stuff.
Gotcha. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Kathy, and thank you, Steve, for providing that comprehensive overview of how things are handled in really different logistically challenging places. So thank you. Deborah, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Okay. Well, of course, I've got even more questions because that's what we do. We come up with questions all the time. And this one is, what is the best practice you have seen or used to increase the number of volunteers who lead or co-lead on specialized or sub-teams? Now, Mary was great. She just put that in the chat group or in the chat for us. So if you didn't get it the first time, because I'm just rambling on, there's the question. And what we're just looking for are suggestions. It doesn't even mean that it will have worked the way you hope. What has happened, good or bad? What have you done to increase the number of volunteers that you can get to co-lead or work on some of the teams you're working on? So when you came off, are you talking ready again here?
Well, I'm speaking from past experience, not
And
current,
that's fine.
but I
That's-
see that, there's always a way to mold things to make them work today, right?
Mhm.
So long ago, I was asked to lead a group of 29, I'm going to say what it is, Girl Scouts, okay, Girl Scout
Mhm.
troops, all right? So I had this whole area, and we went to our first meeting, and there were two people. They said, no one ever comes. I said, okay, we need to change this. So I had already been a trainer. So I brought in all sorts of things with me, right?
Mhm.
Now, nobody was there. So I put out a little email that said, y'all need to come because we do a questions up front and we do a door prize. And we just did all sorts of things. I got them out of their chairs and made them play a game. And if you've ever seen 29 women laughing and because they're playing this game in the middle of the room, I mean, it was too much fun. But we can adjust that for today, especially with all the Zooms that we do, the virtuals. But when you're in a group, do something that just makes people laugh, and then they'll keep coming back if they're enjoying themselves. If they're not enjoying themselves, they're not going to come back often. So that's all I have to say.
But that's great, because I think you hit on something that we try to encourage people to do. And we say, if it's not fun, maybe we're not doing it right somehow. And so thank you very much, Glenn, for that. Anyone else have some suggestions for people bringing it the way things are? Felicia, you came on, at least on camera. Aha, and you've raised your hand now. Great.
Hi there. Yes, I was in my car with the background noise. I didn't want to interrupt, but I made it home. Um, Kim does such a amazing job at our quarterly meetings. I heard her mention it earlier, that we do breakout rooms, and within the breakout rooms, we all share ideas um, for, gosh, so many different subjects, and many times it's fun. She'll introduce some things that make us laugh. And Kim, I forget how long you keep us in the breakout rooms, maybe 5 minutes, 10. And we
About
get to,
10, 15.
yeah, and she'll give us a topic and, gosh, help me with some subjects that you share with us, because there's been so many amazing things. And it's in groups, sometimes 4 or 5, and we get a chance to really engage with those we only know by name. We get to pin a face to it, but it's so much fun, and to the point that that was just made. When you make it fun, people want to come back. If it's dry and stale, then they're like, oh, I don't get that time back, I'm not going. So Kim just does a fantastic job of keeping it lighthearted. Sometimes we sing, sometimes she'll play songs and name that tune kind of thing, so it takes us all back to game shows, because many of us, we know some of our youth does not know who Jackie Gleason is or Red Skelton or, things like that. So we have to kind of help them along. But, subjects like who would be, on your Mount Rushmore, it can be anybody. So when we engage in conversation, everybody has their own genre based on their age. So we just keep it light, fun, heart. Oh, it's a great time, and we get a chance to learn
Mhm.
and introduce ideas to each other. So it's just it's fun.
All right. Thank you so much for sharing that. As Dr. Mary has written in chat, fun with a purpose.
Absolutely. Like
That's
we
what
did at the Nashville, it was so many incredible ideas. Who were morning persons, who were evening persons, who were early birds, who were late night owls, who likes summer, who likes winter. And it was amazing to see the large groups of people. We were all there together, but it was quite interesting to see what the masses, what their preferences were, bases the smaller groups that had other preferences. And we just had a ball learning about one another. And to the point Dr. Mary just said, fun with a purpose. So it was excellent. It was fun. It was memorable. And as I always love to say, when you care, it shows. And we do.
Josephine, I know that you've been, it seems like, wanting to say something. So would you like to join the group now? Say something?
Um, Hi everybody. What a great conversation.
Hey,
I
we've
don't
been
really have
sending
it.
it.
Yeah. I don't really have anything to add right now. I'm enjoying the conversation. These are great questions.
Okay.
But thank you for asking.
All right. Anyone else at this point want to join in? It doesn't have to have been perfect. It just needs to be an idea. What would you like to try that you haven't been able to? That's always something we could try to get to. Kathy, you're back on.
I'm going to put Josephine on the spot. Josephine, you have a very large and growing Ethel group, right? And I know you also are a tremendous read of people, and you invite people in. So I'm just curious, what are some of the ways that you've looked around the group and thought, oh, I'm going to ask her to do more of this, or I'm going to ask her if she'll step into that. And if you haven't, what might you do, right? Just with your superpowers of inviting people.
Well,
Thank you, Kathy.
I I don't know about that, but I just I kind of look and see what I think people are capable of doing, and I try to bring them in slowly. Like I've been I'm trying to get some of the pressure off myself and not doing the whole community services by myself. So we broke up into 3 committees this year, and that has worked somewhat. I've got one committee that I need do a little bit more work on, which will come in the next year. But that's one of the ways I just try and identify people who show an interest in doing some extra work, and I invite them to come in and take over a spot and show them that it's not that hard. I'm doing more and more with tabling events that we have. Instead of me being at every single one that we do, I have people in charge of just doing a single tabling event. One of my people who takes care of the adult daycare center, they're our representative, quote unquote. And so when we have a tabling event there, she handles that. And so we have other people that have other interests, and I get them to work on those interests. I try to look for people, the interests that people have, and try to develop that interest into a more leadership role.
Oh,
And
right.
we only have 14 members in our team. That's our team, and we're always looking, recruiting. And
Yeah.
unfortunately, our main recruiter fell and fell backwards and got injured, and he's been out for the last 6 months, recovering from his brain injury. But that really hurt, because he was my main helper, and so that really put a kink in my style.
Okay, thank you, Stephen, so much for sharing that. Felicia, you had your hand up. Do you want to go ahead?
Sure, I heard Ethel's, and it reminded me, Kim
Mhm.
and I, we tag team on a lot of events within the organization.
Mhm.
And externally, we have been so fortunate to do the Roost News on YouTube to express our Friendly Voice program in an effort to share what we do in bringing joy to those who are isolated and lonely. Our clients, or anyone, can call and request to be or receive a weekly call, but typically it's seniors 60 plus, which is joyous. It's wonderful. We also have done the Ethel's group. We were able to join their YouTube, what was it, their podcast, Kim, and share what we do. And we were able to bring in a few volunteers. They had no idea what Friendly Voice was.
Mhm.
So we had an opportunity to share what we do. And also, we were in DC at the expo. We did an internal podcast for all of the staff there at the corporate office, which was amazing. In addition to the expo, so we had a chance to share across the lines within the organization what we do, not only to other programs, but the public, I believe, that would come in and learn more about our program. So we were able to engage our program, what we do, bringing joy to those who are isolated
Yeah.
and lonely, because you'd be surprised when people are in their golden years. Many don't have anyone to talk to because they've outlived their family, their friends.
Mhm.
Some of their youth have dropped them off at senior communities, and they don't even get a card, a call, a nothing, a visit.
Right.
So we try to step in that empty space, and quite wonderful. So I heard Ethel, I was like, oh yeah, I didn't mention that. So just wanted to share our engagement and bringing more volunteers, not externally, but even within our own network, because we know who we are and we know what we do in an effort
Mhm.
for our outreach
Right.
to those that.
We did the Ethels on Facebook, remember? We were
Oh, that's
typing
right. It was
away.
Facebook. Oh.
Boy, I remember being on an electric typewriter many years ago. I was doing that night. But once again, it was not the normal way that we communicate, but that's how the Ethels do it. So
Mhm.
maybe sometimes part of the Mary's question, thinking of new ideas, you have to kind of go out your comfort zone. What else can you do that might bring other people in there or use some talent that they didn't even know they had? And I mean, not everyone enjoys typing, but at least we got the information across and they like it. And that was the whole point of it.
Yes,
We went to what they like to do. And so they
that's right.
enjoyed,
There you
and
go.
they kept asking questions. We were just trying to keep up with our fingers to answer them, but it was really unique. I'd never done it before. So, and I don't think Felicia had either.
No, I had not, but it was fun. It was sharing. Sharing is caring, if you will.
Mhm.
And I also have been fortunate with another one of our leadership team members, and I'll speak quick, working on the revamp of our website. And with the other leadership team members, we are engaged in conversation how to make our page more engaging. So those who may have an interest but not the time to join or learn our information, they can perhaps download some information tools about what we do and how we do it. So
All right.
busy at the Friendly Voice program, excited
Yes.
about all the opportunities to share what we do across the
Thank
line.
you.
So not even
Thank you,
just us,
Felicia.
but fraud and all the other programs. So yeah, thanks.
Yeah.
Thank
Thank
you.
you, Felicia, and thank you, Kim. Linda, you've got your hand
Yeah,
raised.
I was just going to share a little bit on behalf of the Ethels, since Felicia brought up. I think that's a perfect collaboration because basically we have the same exact mission, but we're coming at it from different sides, and it's a really important mission. The other thing that I was going to share is that the Ethels, as far as the leadership team, and there's 4 of us here today, we're we're spending a lot of time the last year, and we have some goals for the next like 6 months.
Mhm.
Trying to do a lot of organization and trying to figure out creative ways, not only to recruit hosts and recruit interest and uh, provide content for our organizers, but also to address certain issues that might be helpful to some of our members. So we're broken up into several different committees. Gwen is doing a committee having to do with recruiting or recruiting more volunteers for Ethel's. Um, uh, uh, Justine is involved with that. I'm involved with that. And then Josephine and I and another member are involved in a couple of efforts too. So what's been important to Ethel's is kind of as a leadership team trying to learn a lot. We have a lot to learn because we're not really schooled in leadership. We're volunteers. So we're kind of trying to be self-taught
Mhm. Okay.
by
Okay.
coming up with different creative ideas and trying to map out, how we're gonna further this mission for the Ethels.
Okay. I think that's a challenge that we all have in one way or another, is trying to figure out how to map out where we're going to go, what we're going to do, and how we integrate what we do with other parts of the organization. So thank you, Linda, for your comments. We appreciate that. We've reached the end of our time. So, this conversation could go on, I'm sure, for a lot longer. Our September 9th topic, I think, will be even more interesting. It's going to be beyond the Executive Council. We're calling it Beyond the EC, engaging volunteers in annual planning. And we're going to have some special guests at that day to help us get through the discussion even more and figure out ways for us as volunteers and staff to be engaged and make use of the talents that we have. So thank you all very much. We've reached the end of our time today. Thank you, Dr. Mary, for handling questions, and the support of OVE is immeasurable. Kathy Kynes is the representative today. Thank you all. We'll see you on September 9th.
Thank you all. Have a wonderful rest of the August and a good Labor Day.
All right.
Thank
You too,
you.
Mary.
Good
You
seeing
too.
everybody.
You as well. Likewise. Thank you.
There.
Everyone to stop recording.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank
That's
you.
the next thing.